Okay, so welcome to another episode of Testimony Tuesday. I have such an amazing woman here with me today by the name of Gianna Snell, and I'm just gonna let her introduce herself before we jump in. Hey, girl.
Hey girl. Hey. Oh man, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm
Of
looking
course.
forward to just some girl talk and some real talk. But
Yes.
I am a photographer. I am
The
a studio
best.
owner. Thank you.
Let's throw that out there.
I,
She plays no games with that camera, honey.
you girl, you help. You
Listen,
help.
listen.
But
Mm-mm.
I have been owning my studio for a little over a year, but I've been a photographer for about 20 years. So excited about
Wow.
that. I am a mother of three miracle children, and I'm
Yes.
sure we'll talk a little bit about why they're miracles. But
Yes.
I'm homeschooling them due to all the things going on right now in the world, and I'm actually enjoying it. My husband and I are both homeschooling them.
Wow.
Wife to uh, Gianna Snell, who is the pastor of First Seventh Day Adventist Church here in Huntsville. We've been here in Huntsville for 10 years, and I am just happy to be here and thankful for all the things that God is doing in my life.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I mean, you are doing a lot, and you're doing it well. You're carrying it well.
I don't know.
Any
Thank
good?
you.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So we've just been talking about just over the past few weeks, just different, sharing our different stories as far as like how we have conceived these miracle babies, because
Mm,
there are just so many women out here who are believing God for their miracle babies. You have women out here who are currently pregnant and have no idea, what to do, and kind of just need that extra support, just need to be built up a little. And then you have those of us out here who in the aftermath of having kids, and we like, whoa,
mm,
why, yeah, y'all
yeah.
weren't gonna tell me about this stuff,
Right.
like
Correct.
so
Correct.
this was supposed to be on the hush hush. Ain't nobody gonna talk about this stuff. So
Right. Right.
so so we're just in this conversation going to hit on just a little bit of the before and the during, and then a lot of the after, just as far as like what does it look like after you have these children, what
Yes.
does it look like in our marriages, what does it look like, physically, how do we handle
Mm,
this type of stuff. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and dive in, and I would love for you to share your before, before you got pregnant, as far as like what even caused the desire of you wanting to have children and all of that. So I'm gonna be quiet.
okay. Well, I remember from a little girl, I was a pastor's daughter, grew up in the church pew, spent all day at church whenever we went. And so a lot of times I would end up holding different babies and rocking them to sleep. And I prided myself in being able to put a baby to sleep or to calm them. And so even from a little girl, I just had an affinity toward babies, and I knew I wanted to be a mom. And so as I got older, I, just as little girls do, you plan out your life. We used to play MASH, and we used to play, with dolls, and just imagine what our life would look like. I'm gonna be married by 23. I'm gonna have, four children by this age, and you have it all planned out, timed out in your head about how
Mm-hmm.
life is gonna look, and to
Mm-hmm.
have no clue that life may not look that way,
Right.
and that there are going to be some delays, some obstacles, some speed bumps. So, but from an early age, I knew that I wanted to be a mom. And so when we got married, I was 23 and my husband was 26. And we knew we wanted to take some time. Like we weren't in a rush.
Mm-hmm.
So we were married about 4 years. I traveled with him everywhere he went to go speak. We were really close, had a really, good foundation, and we had time to kind of build our friendship and build our relationship. And so
Mm.
after about 4 years, I was like, okay, it's getting a little quiet around here. It's time to start feeling some little footsteps coming down the hall. And I'm just like, well, let's have a baby, let's get pregnant. So that's kind of how it went. And
Mm-hmm.
we got pregnant immediately.
Wow.
Um, like we said, we had the conversation. The next month we were pregnant. So it
Wow.
happened very quickly. We didn't have problems getting pregnant. It
Praise the
was
Lord.
just, yeah. So that was, praise God, not the battle. But, 2 weeks after my positive pregnancy test, I started having symptoms of a miscarriage. And that's when our journey kind of began of
Mm,
trying to conceive and have our
okay.
miracles.
So, when that miscarriage happened,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's just go ahead and say, how many? Because I know there were more than one, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in the midst of those just multiple miscarriages, what was your mind? Like, when did you even like gain the strength, the mental capacity to say, okay, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going till I have these kids? Like, walk us through your process of the miscarriages and the disappointment after disappointment after disappointment.
Yeah. So when that first miscarriage happened, and you're spotting, you're cramping, you're, literally going through. I call it a microcosm of birth because I was having contractions. I
Wow.
was, feeling this, my body trying to push something out, and I'm like, whoa, I'm only 7, 8 weeks pregnant, but it was painful. It
Mm-hmm.
was devastating. It was disappointing because when you first get pregnant, when a woman first gets pregnant, she walks different. Like I was going up the steps different. I was sitting down different. I was watching what I ate. I was taking vitamins. I ordered every book I could,
Wow.
about what to expect. My husband went and got me maternity clothes at 6 weeks pregnant. Like we were just excited. We told
Wow.
everybody in our family. Like it changed everything. And then to have that ripped away, it was just
Mm.
like, whoa, what just happened? And so I think just emotionally, it was just a huge, huge blow. And the doctors, they're very like, well, don't worry about this. It happens. A lot of first pregnancies, this is the body's way of written itself as something that just wasn't right. So this happens for a lot of first time pregnancies, but I'd never heard of it. You know what I mean? Like it's not something that's talked about, around the dinner table, or, people don't go on Facebook and post, hey, I had like, I'd never
Right.
heard of anybody. I didn't know of anybody that had it happen. So I'm just like, what's going on? So, thankfully the doctors were pretty optimistic about it. And they were just like, this happens a lot for first time pregnancies. Let's try this again. So we got pregnant again. About 4 months later, the same exact thing happened. And
Mm.
so I'm just like, okay, what is going on? And so we ended up going to get some blood work done because I'm just like, okay, this has happened twice.
Mhm.
So what's happening? So I switched doctors and I'm just like, okay, let's go where I can get some tests done. They took like 18 vials of blood. The doctor came back and said, everything looked great. I don't see any problems here. Go ahead and try for the third time.
Mm.
So we got pregnant a third time. This time, the doctor that did the test was no longer at the office. She had moved to California. So they placed me with a new doctor. So this new
Mm.
doctor, I'm telling her, hey, this is my history. I've lost two. They already did the blood work. They already did the test. They can't find anything wrong. She's like, well, let's just go for it. We'll take all the precautions. I think it'll be fine. Get in. We finally this time get to the point where we can see a heartbeat and see the ultrasound and see the little baby, the little bean in there. And I'm just like, thank you, Jesus. This is my miracle. This is it. Every
Mhm.
morning, my husband's praying over my womb, over my stomach, just asking God to preserve this life. And we went in for an 8 week checkup, and there was no longer a heartbeat. And I'm just like, what in the world is going on? And I'll never forget, I asked the doctor, I'm just like, what is happening? She's like, well, we need to do tests. And I said, I already did that with someone in this practice. She said everything was fine. She said, let me go back and look. She said, I see a clear problem right here. She didn't tell you on this last page that you have a blood clotting disorder. that you tested positive for? And she's like, this is an easy fix. All you had to do is take blood thinners and you'll have your baby. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? So I'm so glad that you've been incorporating this conversation about us being advocates for ourselves, because I didn't know that I had the right to ask for the paperwork. I didn't know that I had the right to see stuff. I'm just taking the doctor's word for it. You know, she said I'm
Wow.
fine, so I'm fine. And now looking back, I'm able to tell other women, get the paperwork, look at the test, get a second opinion, you know, don't just take the word for it. So it was just one of those situations where we were just angry, upset, like I just lost this baby potentially unnecessarily, you know?
Right. Yeah, like it just it continues to move me because honestly, Gianna, you and I have known each other just for a few short years, but I never knew that part of your story. And it's literally the same exact thing where I got
Mm,
my paperwork to another doctor and he's like, "Hey, yeah, you got PCOS. She didn't tell you like this was on your work. This was on your paperwork from like 3 years ago." And I'm just like,
Jesus.
"What?" I
Mm,
think that's kind of important to know. You're trying to conceive,
right, right.
but same thing. Did not
Yeah.
know, and so I'm so glad that you are saying, listen, get your paperwork, go get a second
Mm-hmm.
opinion, because
Yes,
if something doesn't feel right, then it's probably not right. Something is probably
that's
going
right.
on that could be a simple fix.
Yeah,
So that I never knew that about that part of your story. And so wow.
yeah,
So after that third miscarriage and you got on, did you get on the pills that they suggested to you going forward, or did you do something else?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So they told me I needed to take daily injections of Lovenox, which is a blood thinner. I was also going to be taking a daily aspirin, just a baby aspirin, you know.
Mhm.
But those two things, they were like, several women have done this, and you'll be able to have a baby. So I moved. Well, no, I did that fourth pregnancy with her because she looked back at the paperwork, and I also fault her too, though, because I was under her care from the beginning, and she didn't look back until after I lost the baby. So it seemed like when you get that new patient, you go over all their paperwork up until, you know, because it was in your office. Like
Yes.
this is, you know, you pulled it
This
up
isn't
with
new.
a
Yeah.
by pressing a button. But so we
So I
got pregnant
think, not
again.
to cut you off, but I think it was very
Mm-hmm.
important to say for women who are out here, you're trying to get pregnant, or even if you are pregnant, or whatever the case may be, to ask your doctor to look over any previous paperwork. If you're at a new doctor,
Yes.
or a
Yeah.
new practice, to ask them, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
look," and you would think you won't have to say that,
Yeah.
but unfortunately we do.
Yes.
We do, to say,
Yes.
"Hey, did have you seen anything in my paperwork that looks a little abnormal? Can we
Mm-hmm.
discuss just some previous things that's been going on," whatever the case may be. So thank you for sharing that. Keep going.
Yes. Absolutely. So we ended up getting pregnant a fourth time, and again, every time like that. So we got pregnant, and this time we're on the blood thinners. We're on everything. So I'm just like, God, this is it. So we got probably to about halfway during the pregnancy, and my faith was struggling, y'all. I mean, real talk, keep going in to appointments for heartbeat checks and for ultrasounds, and there's no heartbeat. So I ordered my own Doppler. I rented. So I'm
Wow.
checking every day to make sure there's still a heartbeat.
Wow.
And around the 4.5 month mark, I'm not hearing a heartbeat. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me just wait. It happened to be the weekend of my best friend's wedding. I'm the matron of, I mean, I can't do this right now. And even if something has gone on, what can they do at 4.5 months, to stop it? So I'm just like, let's just move forward, get through this weekend, and when we get home, we'll go to the doctor. get back to the doctor, and I call and said, hey, I know I'm not scheduled for an appointment, but can y'all just do a heartbeat check? And they're just like, okay, come on in. So I go in, and as I'm walking into the office, I'll never forget, the nurse was just like, girl, why are you up here? You know that baby's fine. Just, you always so worried. Just get
Oh
on in here.
my.
And I was just like, okay, you don't know what I've been through.
Yeah.
So I go in, and they put the Doppler on my stomach. And of course, the lady turns it immediately off, and she's like, I'm going to go get the doctor. Having gone to this 3 times before, I already know what that means. So the doctor comes in, and she's like, I am so sorry. Um, the baby was doing fine with the blood thinning issue, but this baby had a birth defect that, there's a growth around his neck. We can see it on the ultrasound. And, there's just nothing we can do. Like, we're going to have to, you're going to have to deliver this baby. And, and I'm just like, what is going on, God? Like, by this time, my faith is just shook,
Yeah.
because you're doing all the things you know to do in the medical and the physical realm. Okay, so this is happening. We'll take this. We'll do this. We'll do that. And then it's like again. And so when we left, I was just blown. We went through the delivery, and I think I got a little bit more closure because I got to see and hold my baby that time and name him. And the hospital had a policy of burying, all babies. So I felt like I had a little bit of closure there emotionally, but just spiritually, I was just done. I
Oh,
remember leaving the hospital, and you're watching all these other families putting their babies in the car seat, and we're walking out with empty arms. I just went through a delivery. I had an epidural. I'm on the same wing with all the other moms. I'm hearing the shouts of joy, and we're
wow.
leaving brokenhearted and empty. And I was just like, God, I got out in that parking lot. We got in the car, and I was just like, God, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Like, I've been on this roller coaster too long. I need you to, I just can't. I'm done. And I'll never forget, I heard God say, Gianna, you will have a child. Right in the spot where the enemy was trying to snatch my faith and trying to tell me, give up, it's over. God stepped in that exact moment and said, Gianna, it's not over. I got a baby for you. Hold on. And it's crazy because I was sharing it with my husband later, and he was like, well, I don't, ma'am, I don't want to see you go through this again. I didn't hear
Mm,
that word. I said, no, I heard him. He said, I'm going to have a child. I don't
mm,
know when, I don't know how, but it's going to happen. And so
my
when we
God.
left, though, I was like, I got to get away from this doctor's office because I did not like that the nurse treated my fear and my questions and my concern so lightly, knowing
Mm,
that I've lost 3 babies. So I researched, and I was like, I need a high risk OB where they understand fears and tears and questions and needing an extra ultrasound. And
mhm.
so I went and found a doctor, and it's so crazy. I signed up for these different consultations with doctors. I walked into his office, and he had a huge painting of Jesus leaning over the desk of the doctor. And I was like, I'm in the right place. This is where I need to
Wow.
be. And he was like, he was like, you can come in every week. We're going to do 4D ultrasounds. If you ever have a concern, if you ever have something don't feel, you get up here. We will not question you. We won't ask you. We understand you've been through a lot.
Wow.
And so it just burdens my heart to hear women saying, I went up there, but they told me to go home, or they told me my appointment is until, 12 heartbeat. If you've had challenges before and you're high risk, why is your first appointment at 12 weeks? When you've
Yeah.
lost, just different things where they're not sensitive to the journey that you've been on. And so
Mm,
I'm a huge advocate for high risk OBs and for, being in a place where they listen and
mhm.
understand what you've been going through to get to this point, you know? So
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like it just it reminds me of having to, and I understand, like, some women, if you don't feel like, maybe it's not in your personality to be so assertive or whatever the case may be. But when it comes to your body, nobody's going to advocate for your body like you will,
Right.
and we have our dear precious husbands who love us so much. But at the same token, you are feeling this. This is your body. And so if you're feeling that something is off, don't be afraid to go to someone, research, who's going to be befitting. It happened to me before the pregnancy and during the pregnancy. So my high risk doctor, I traveled to Birmingham. I was like, you know what, Huntsville,
Mm.
y'all ain't what I couldn't find anybody like at the time. So I was like, I'm leaving
Mm-hmm.
town. I'm going
Mm.
somewhere else. And
Good.
found my doctor, and
Mm.
we went through 5 rounds of IUIs. All of them failed. And I
Mm.
loved him dearly. I mean, loved him dearly because he was extremely honest with us. By the time we got to him, though, we had already had 3 IUIs, and so he did 2.
Wow.
um but that man literally had to kick me out of his office. He's like, listen, he's like, when you get pregnant, he's like, Ashley, when you get pregnant, you cannot keep traveling to Birmingham, you know every week or every other week. Like, you gotta find somebody there. And so when I finally got pregnant, and I got to that point as well where I was just like, I'm done, I'm letting it go. I always had that little nudge still of faith. I had a little bit, like I
Mm-hmm.
literally had a
Mm-hmm.
mustard seed. That's all I had,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. But I had stopped. I stopped all the medicine. I stopped trying. I don't even think I prayed about it anymore. I was just like, done.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then when we did get pregnant, which I think I should definitely say this because it's y'all. We we literally got pregnant the weekend of our 5-year anniversary, and Gianna had just gave us such an amazing photo shoot. It literally, it is still the dopest photo shoot we have ever done to date. Like, y'all, I'm telling you, that weekend, like after that photo shoot, is when we got pregnant. But even like when we got pregnant, my doctor, she had started to show those little signs where she was getting like a little irritated when I was asking questions. And I had to tell her the same thing.
Mm.
I was like, listen, Dr. Lady.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And I had only had one miscarriage, Gianna, but it doesn't, it doesn't hurt any less, honestly. And
Right.
I was like, listen, I have questions, I have concerns, I'm nervous.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
a first time mother. Like, I am going to need you, like, lady, I about want your cell phone number. I need to be calling you.
Okay. Correct.
I'm doing good by only calling during business hours, because really,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
but when I told her that I had to have an open and honest conversation, I said, I'm gonna have to find me another doctor if you can't get with it. Like, I was very blunt.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, that lady was like, listen, I am so sorry, we're gonna do what we can, yada yada yada. But sometimes it just takes a conversation, and not
Yeah. Yeah.
soaking in what's
Mhm.
going on in your head. It needs to leave your
Mhm.
head. It has to
Yeah.
leave your head, you know.
Mhm.
So
That's so
anyway,
true.
yeah, like after your fourth miscarriage, my God.
Mhm.
What was that time period like, from the time you miscarried a fourth time to you conceiving that? Because it was the next baby, right? Where it full
Yes.
time. Okay,
Yeah.
wow, yes.
Yeah.
Please tell us about that transition when it finally happened. You're like, thank you, Jesus.
Right. Girl. And it's crazy because a lot of times when we are done and when we're saying, okay, I'm not. So I mean, God gave me that confirmation as we were leaving the hospital that I would be a mother. But again, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, even, I'm just like, I can't. So we are just like, let's take a year. No more trying, no more whatever. Let's just give ourselves a break. 9 months later, I was pregnant. And it's crazy because it should be a moment of joy, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
because this moment has led to so much disappointment
Mhm.
and heartache, it was kind of like, oh Lord, here we go again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You kind of
But
bracing yourself.
yes, for the
Yeah.
journey. But there was always a part of me that was just like, this could be it. Like I am going to do my best. I'm gonna do everything in my power to carry this baby. And so I was excited but scared. But thankfully we made it through that pregnancy, every heartbeat check, everything. And by this time, it was just, we were just letting everybody know. And it's crazy because when you're going through infertility or when you're going through miscarriage, sometimes you just want to keep it in and you don't
Mhm.
want people to know because
Mhm.
there's different things associated with it. And it's not right for people to be shamed or to be questioned about why they don't have children yet or what's going on. But, we were just going through all of this stuff secretly. But by this time, it's out here like, y'all, I need y'all to pray
Yeah.
us to the finish line. So
Yes.
thankfully, when we went in for our 7-month checkup, they were like, ma'am, your cervix is open. Like this baby could slide out any moment. We need you to go on bed rest. I said, okay, whatever I got to do. So anyway, we did the bed rest and we had a few scares along the way, but my miracle child, Jaden, came in 2010. We named him
Wow.
Jaden, which means
Praise
Jehovah
God.
has heard. And
Ooh.
it just felt so, man, I can't even describe the joy when we left that hospital finally with a baby in our arms. I had
Mm.
left it so many times empty, but finally put our baby in the car. Finally, when we got home, my husband and I just put his car seat on the ground and we just sat there stared. Like, is this
Wow.
really real?
Wow.
It was just surreal. For the first few weeks, it was just like, thank you. Like every time I looked at him, I just burst into tears. Just it was
Same
amazing.
thing
But
happened to me.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then came two and then three.
Then 3. And then came the real, because I think there's a misconception that when you've wanted something for so long and when you prayed for something for so long, that when you get it, everything's just going to be rainbows and peaches and perfection. Like,
Listen. That's and see, and this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about
yeah.
the after because you
Mm-hmm.
are so right, and you still have moments where you're
Yes.
like, "What in the world was I praying for again?"
Right.
Like, and then there's this piece of guilt to where you're like, how dare you
Right.
complain after all these years that you've been praying and preparing and all
Right.
this stuff. But the truth is, regardless of how badly you've wanted children, the truth is there are challenges, right, that comes
Yes.
along with this journey. And
Absolutely.
one of the challenges, I know for me personally, has been this weight.
Oh
um,
man, girl.
seriously, one of the challenges has been this weight. And I'm grateful, I'm super grateful for what came out of my body, but I'm looking like, baby, I'm looking like this temple was 30 pounds lighter before. And so I have been going through, like, just being honest, I've been going through these cycles of trying to, get the baby weight off. And then you're hearing, you got to be patient with yourself. Your hormones are
Yes.
still raging, they're going everywhere. And I get
True.
that. I get that. But I do want to ask you, like, how did you, because Gianna, you lost a lot of weight now. You lost a lot of weight, and that takes a whole lot of discipline that I just don't feel like I have right now. So I'm really help me. If nobody else, help me. How'd you get there?
Girl, I will say that I agree with what people have been telling you. You have to have grace with yourself. I didn't lose the weight until my youngest was 4. So this is 8 years after my first kid.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna sip my water.
So that's just my story. Now, I mean, and I struggled. I struggled after I had my babies. My first child, I gained, 50 pounds. I mean, it comes on and you're like, what? what just happened here? And everybody
Mhm.
tells you all these stuff that doesn't apply to everybody. Girl, just breastfeed and that weight will just melt off, girl. I lost 50
Lies.
pounds in the first 2 weeks.
Lies.
Damn, we out here breastfeeding. It's still here. So, I mean, I'm just looking around and you see other people just snap back and you just like, dang, you know? And so I think one, I just had to stop the comparison. Like I had to stop looking at everybody else and I had to focus on me because it was discouraging sometimes. You're on Facebook, social media, or just around your girls and you see certain people that are just got this going on in this area. But what we don't realize is that there's another area where they're falling short. And so comparing just doesn't help, you know, it just steals our joy. So that was the first thing. But two,
Ooh.
I had to give myself grace because there's a lot to adjust to when we become moms. And
Mhm.
like you said, the hormones are raging. We're trying to figure things out. We're trying to get things together. And we still got our job, we got our man, we got all the things, ministry. And so it took me a while. Like I literally, it was 2 years ago. It was Christmas. My daughter came to me. She was 5 at the time, and she said, "Mommy, um, I thought after you had a child, after you had a baby, that your stomach goes down. Oh, you still look pregnant, mommy." And this is like Christmas night. And when I say, and you know, you just laugh it off because she's just being a kid, you know.
Yeah, they have
But
no
I just laughed it
filter.
off. None. None. These kids are savage. And I'm looking down and I'm just like, God, I need you. Like, I can't do this anymore. And it was another moment where I was just like, I can't. I mean, I had been struggling with the weight and I tried this and I went vegan and I went to Weight Watchers and I lose 10 pounds and then I'm back, you know, where I started. It was just never the weight loss that I needed. I knew I needed something serious, something radical, something that was going to push me. I couldn't do all the things I want to do, eat all the chocolate cake, ice cream, and lose 40 pounds. It wasn't going to happen that way for me. I just knew that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that night I cried myself to sleep and I was just like, God, I need a change. Like, I need you to do something. I don't have the power. Like, I've tried it. So I just started praying. And I watched a video on YouTube by Rachel Hollis. She wrote that book.
I've read her book, Girl Wash Your Face or
Yes,
something
there
like
you
that.
go.
Uh-huh.
I watched a YouTube video by her, and she was talking about the power of affirmation. And she was just reaffirming the fact that whatever follows I am determines the life you'll have. And she said, I've been saying these statements for years before it was even true. And of course, hers were more entrepreneurial based. You know, I fly first class wherever I go. I am, you know, comfortable. I look good in my jeans. I run 5 times a week. And she was saying when she started writing those statements out and saying them, they were not true. She hated running. She hated exercising. She, you know, was flying, you know, back in the back of the plane everywhere. But she said the more she said it, the more her subconscious started to try to catch up.
Wow.
So she was like, write out your statements and start saying them. Start saying them before they're true. So I took out a sheet of paper and I wrote out, I love eating vegetables. I hate eating vegetables, right? Um, Sugar and bread are no longer appealing to me. That's all I eat. I'm a vegetarian, so I overcompensate by eating
Wow.
sugar. And, you know, but you would think being a vegetarian and eating more of a plant based life but no, I'm still having overeating problems. I'm still eating the healthy, you know, lasagna that's made with plants. I'm eating 3 or 4 servings of it. There's a problem there. So, but I wrote out those statements and I kept saying them. I'm like, I feel good in my clothes. I love getting dressed, all those things. And I felt crazy saying them because I'm just like, this is not true. But over time, my subconscious was trying to catch up to that thing.
Mm.
So 2 months later, no, it was a month later, after my daughter came to me and I prayed. No, it was probably 2 weeks later. I was listening to a podcast about weight loss, and this lady said she had tried Bright Line Eating. She had read the book, she did Bright Line Eating, she lost 50 pounds. And she was just like, there was something about that stuck out to me because I had been hearing about Bright Line Eating and about cutting out flour and sugar. but I was resistant to it. I'm like, that's extreme. I don't want to do that. But this time I was like, all right, God, I hear you. I hear you. So I picked up the book. First chapter, I was weeping. I was like,
oh wow.
okay, God, this is for me. And she was just talking about how there are certain people who you can't tell us to eat one slice of pizza or that we're going to have a diet where we get one cheat day and then we go back. She's like, there are some of us that can't handle it. There's something that's triggered when we eat one piece of chocolate, we must have more. And I was like, that's me.
That's me.
You know,
That's me.
yeah. You try all these Weight Watchers where it's like you can eat whatever you want and still lose 2 pounds. No, I can't. So she was just like, there are some of us that have to abstain. And that's what it is. She's like, it's an addiction. Food has become addicted. And so I knew that's what it was for me. I felt myself out of control. I saw myself gorging myself on bags of candy and I could not stop. And it was a scary thing because I would be emotional and I would run up against a problem at work and I would go get a piece of chocolate, but then I kept going back 10 times. And then I had to follow it with something salty. So I'll eat a whole bag of chips. Then I'll go back for something. I mean, I felt out of
real
control.
life. This is real life.
No. Yeah. I felt out of control. And so I knew that this was out of my hands. Like I had to. So I read the book. I started the program. I reached out to somebody that I knew had done it. She's like, oh girl, I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do better than helping you and giving you some advice. You're gonna call me every morning and you're gonna tell me what you're gonna eat. And I'm like, no. I didn't ask for all that, ma'am. Wow. I could do this on my own. But Jesus knew that's what I needed. I needed accountability because when it comes to sugar and flour, I don't know how to stop. And so I needed that help. So every single morning I had to call her. And it was, this program is actually based on AA. Like it's based on addiction and Alcoholics Anonymous, and they treat the food like that. Like if you want to overcome, you got to abstain. And so for me, it was like, okay, day one, we're measuring out our foods, doing all of those things and cutting out the sugar and flour. And when I say, I remember they told me first thing in the book, they're like, go ahead and take your before picture because the weight is going to come off quick. And as I was taking the picture, I heard the enemy in my head, like, girl, this ain't going to happen. You're going to be the same size in 3 weeks. Don't even take this before picture. And I was like, no, it's different this time because I started by changing my mindset first. Yeah. So I had to change the lies because so many times we're telling ourselves, I'll never lose this weight. I'll always be thick. Well, then we will,
Right.
I had to change the lies. I had to change the narrative and say, I will be healthy. I will lose this weight. I will be sexy again. I will feel good in my clothes. And that's when I was ready, when I stopped saying the lies and stopped saying that I couldn't and said that I could, that I am, that I will.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
You have to change the internal narrative.
That's right. That's where it shifted for me. I had been trying for 15 years. As soon as we got married, I picked up weight. I was making biscuits, pancakes every morning for my man. And I was like, whoa.
And it never seems to affect them like it affects us.
Right. Yeah. So girl, wow. But yeah, that program worked. The first week, first 2 weeks, I lost 8 pounds and it just went from there. The first month, 10 pounds, second, and I lost 45 pounds. But there was a freedom that came with it of being able to celebrate a birthday and not feel like I had to have cake, but I could celebrate the people around me and I could, celebrate our anniversary and just look into my husband's eyes and that be the sweeps, that be the, so there was just a freedom of not having to have cake and not having to gorge myself. Because a lot of times we feel like we have to have it, but then I was feeling high. Like I literally couldn't function for 2 days after I would have those days where I'm eating 2 bags of chocolate. The next day I would walk around like I was high. Wow. Like I couldn't think, I couldn't function. I was walking around in my robe like, what did I come downstairs for? What am I doing?
Wow.
And it was bad. So I'm
so convicted. I am so convicted, Gianna. And I'm so glad that this is recorded because I'm going to look back on this interview a year from now and be like, oh my God, like I am in
That
full,
was the day.
I'm repenting. I am repenting all over again today. I'm not lying. Like, I'm so not lying.
Me too.
Because everything that you are saying, it is so true. Like, just being addicted to food. Let's just call a spade a spade. It is an addiction. It is an addiction. And I do understand giving myself grace. And, we do have to give our bodies grace, when we are, after you have a baby. But there does have to come a time where enough is enough to, so we can say, all right. And even if the hormones are raging, that don't mean we need to be eating a Hershey Kiss every 3 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So thank you for sharing that. So I know we got to get ready to wrap up. So I want to end with this. I want you to talk about, and let me say this, because it's very important to note that what Gianna was saying is, you heard her say she got some accountability and she had to change her mindset. That's very important. And so after the babies, and we're married and we're like, yay, we have babies now, yada yada. Like, I want to know how, I just want to end with this. What were some of the drastic changes of your life after babies? Or maybe things that you probably weren't warned about?
Oh, wow. There's so many. Oh man. In what way? Give me a little more specific.
Talk about, well, we already talked about some of the body changes. So we can talk about the in your marriage, or even having to raise children, because sometimes there is no blueprint. Even if you had a really good example growing up, you may have, or you may not have, whatever, but there really is no blueprint to what you feel like God has called you to be responsible for. So even challenges in raising your children God's way, like, you can talk about any of that.
Wow. I think it was definitely a challenge to discipline this child that melted my heart every time I looked in his eyes.
Oh, wow.
That first, and it's crazy. We didn't even realize that, because at home it's cute and you're just like, oh, but when it happens out in public, it was like, whoa. So I'll never forget, we were at the church. We were showing my grandfather the new facility our church had just purchased, and we did a tour. And we went home, and I remember we were calling my son Jaden, come here, Jaden, it's time to go, Jaden. And my grandfather wrote me an email that afternoon, and he said, I know that you guys prayed long and hard for your baby, but if you don't nip the disobedience in the bud, now you're going to have a whole problem when he gets older. So I know that you love him and that this is your miracle, but you got to get him in line. And at first I was like, whoa. But then like you said, the conviction, I was like, he's right. I shouldn't have to say 18 times, come here, And so I think for me, one of the biggest shocks was just how soon they turn from cute babies where everything is just cute and adorable and fun to like, oh, this is work. Like, I've got to really be intentional about raising and imparting and teaching. And especially after you have that second and third and you're tired and you don't feel like it and you're just like, whatever. It's like, no, like the devil is walking about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour.
That's what the word says.
It's what the word says. And I think one of the biggest lessons for me as a pastor's wife, as a mother, as a ministry leader, is just realizing that I got to keep my guard up. Like sometimes when we go on vacation, I'm like, I don't feel like praying and, doing the whole long devotion today. I'm just going to relax. And it's on those days that it's like all hell breaks loose. And I've just learned that the devil has zero chill. So I've got to get up every morning realizing that this is warfare. It's cute to have a family. It's cute to be a mom. It's cute to have a baby on your hip. This is warfare. And it's real. And the devil is playing with our children. He's trying to get at our children. He's trying to get at our marriage. So I found myself a few years into, this whole miracle situation doing laps around my house, like the Jericho wall. Like, God,
Wow.
I need you to come back inside of this home. I need you to push back the demonic forces. I need you to just help because our marriage was under attack, our children were under attack, everything. And so it does affect things. But I think I realized, like, just because I had the baby don't mean I can chill now, because that was my
Mm.
biggest desire. That's what kept me on my face. That's what kept me in tears. So now that I got them, I could just relax and chill because I don't got nothing else to pray about. No, no, no.
This
It's
is
even
so
more real
good.
now. It got even
So
more
good.
real. Oh my gosh. So yeah, when I say I'm in my prayer closet around the clock now, like every chance I get, I'm in there calling out the names of my children. Their health has been attacked. I mean, it's just become real now. Like you see those grandmamas that be talking about, they be now the older we get and the more people that are under our care, the more you see why grandmama stayed on her knees.
Listen, it's not a game.
It's
Lit-
not.
I'm over here. I'm over here like bubbling on the inside because I'm just like what you said is so
Mm,
true. You don't put down your weapons just because now that you have your promise, now you have your
mm-hmm.
baby. You know, the same thing that it took to get them, you need to keep them. You need to maintain it
Listen, that's
because
it.
literally the devil is out
Mm-mm.
here trying in any way
Mm-hmm.
that he can. I literally have
Yeah.
to pray over my children's sleep at night. We pray
Yes.
every single night. When
Mm-hmm.
even I pray, I cover their imagination at nighttime. I
Yes.
summon the angels to come in and protect them while they're sleeping at night. I am
Come on.
literally, even when I am praying in my personal time, because sometimes, if we're honest, you know, when you have kids, especially little ones, you know, they
Oh
don't have
yeah.
any chill as far as like, oh, mommy's trying to
No.
pray or mommy's
Oh
trying to work.
no.
Like, they don't care,
Mm-mm.
right? They
Oh
don't
no.
care. And so
Mm-mm.
what I do is I'm just like, okay, well, you want to come in? That's fine too. And I'm speaking in tongues, and my daughter is looking at me like, and then she
Run,
you
baby.
know. But I am learning to, you know, make sure include my children in even on this
Yes.
stuff. But we
Yeah.
don't play around with, you know, they'll be all right. No, like I
Mm-hmm.
literally I had a dream just a few nights ago, and it didn't sit well with me, and I'm literally texting my kids babysitter slash second grandma, and I'm like, listen, this is what I need you to do today, because I don't play with the
Mm-hmm.
devil. Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm saying? You
That's
know,
right.
so I'm with you. So for the women out here, you try, like, listen, don't stop when you get them. Don't
Yeah.
stop when you get them. And
Yeah.
don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to discipline, because I'm so glad that you brought up Gianna. You know, it's almost like you don't want to discipline, especially that first one. You're like, you
Oh
were
my
the
gosh.
first one, like, oh, I can't discipline you. But
Right.
no, you absolutely have to still discipline.
That's right. That's right.
Listen, ma'am, we're gonna sit down. This is not what we do in this house, okay?
Correct. Correct.
So, oh my God,
Yes.
Gianna, this conversation can go on so
I know. I
long.
know.
And it's other stuff that I know that I want to cover, but we've got to end this.
Yeah.
Because I know you got to get back and I got to get back, you know, whatever. But I am so grateful that you said yes. I know that women are going to be so blessed by what you have shared. I am blessed by what you
God.
have shared. I am literally,
God.
I meant what I said. I'm about to have a time of repentance, like with that whole food addiction thing, because that has just wrecked me today. Like,
Listen.
seriously. If you have been blessed, ladies, please share this. Reach out to us if you need anything, have any questions, any prayer concerns. Let us know. We are here for you, and we are excited
Yeah.
to celebrate you and your miracle babies. If you're trying, if you're pregnant, or even if you got them and you're just like, I need some help. Like, we
Right.
are still here to celebrate you in any way
That's
that we
right.
can. So thank you so much, Gianna, and
You're
let us
welcome.
know if you need anything.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,